Coming up on Chopper's Political Podcast.
My anonymity is to protect my free speech in the case that, I'm arrested for some absurd reason.
Welcome back to Chopper's Political Podcast with me, Christopher Hope. I'm GB News' political editor, and Happy New Year from all of us at GB News and in our political team too. This week we're looking at two issues: immigration, and also looking at a new area of satire emerging in Westminster with the so-called Crewkerne Gazette, run by Crewkerne Man, AI videos involving Kemi Badenoch, Keir Starmer, David Lammy, Nigel Farage and the rest. Fascinating to find out how this new world of videos is shaking up our political life. But first to immigration. A fascinating piece this week from Fraser Nelson, a columnist in The Times. He points out that the idea of net zero migration, which has been long wanted by successive Conservative administrations and failed to get the holy grail of actually controlling numbers arriving here legally, which Brexit gives our politicians, could be within grasp. And joining me now is Fraser Nelson to tell me why. Fraser Nelson, welcome to Chopper's Political Podcast.
Great to be here.
Great to be with you. Now, I was with the Prime Minister on Monday, and he then mentioned the Boris wave. See, this idea of these hundreds of thousands arriving here under Boris Johnson and being controlled. But you've written a piece in the Times newspaper suggesting that this holy grail of near net zero migration could be within reach. Why?
This is really quite an extraordinary development. It's one of these things which goes right without anybody expecting it. Now, the trend of immigration figures for the last, I don't know how many years, is that they take everybody by surprise. We seem to be completely unable to forecast it. So when Brexit came along, of course, the whole idea was to take back control of the borders. Then the British government has complete control over the visa qualifications. So they think, okay, people are quite relaxed with immigration. Let's turn it up a little bit. Let's see if we can get the new balance right. They got it very wrong. You end up with almost 1 million net migration. That was the so-called Boris wave. But by the time they worked this out, it was too late. People had already come in there. Now, if they'd kept their eye on the visa numbers, the way that the visa office need more staff because so many were coming, they would have noticed. So then they panicked and the Tories went the other way. They hit the emergency brake. But it always takes a while to kick in. Now it just kicked in. Now, here's the thing. When we had the budget only a few weeks ago, the Office of Budget Responsibility declared that this year, 2026, there would be about 260,000 net migrants. It turns out that the year till June last year, it was 202. In other words, we've already gone significantly below where the OBR thought we'd ever go. So right now, immigration is already back to where it was pre-Boris wave, but if these trends continue, that's when it gets to the tens of thousands that the Tories promised for a long time. We're probably in that period right now, and net zero by Christmas. That is, there's a Warwick
Christmas this year.
Christmas this year. Now, this is a Warwick University analysis. All these figures are to be met with huge caution because we still don't know. But it is entirely plausible that something Nigel Farage promised, net zero migration, something that only is being achieved by Sweden but no other European country, could be achieved in the UK this year, despite, without even Labour even talking about it or even intending it.
Extraordinary. And that is, of course, Brexit. Now, I'm old enough as you are to remember the A8 arrivals, the A2 arrivals, Bulgaria, Romania in the noughties, but and it was meant to be tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people arrived from these countries to work in the UK, and we couldn't control it, and that drove the whole Brexit debate until 2016. And now we have control. The politicians are exercising it. And it's stopping net migration, possibly.
Well, this is exactly what Brexit was intended to do.
Yes, that's right.
Brexit was never going to make Britain better or worse intrinsically. It would just give power, give responsibility.
Sovereignty.
And it would also focus accountability. Now, the Conservatives completely messed up these Brexit powers. They spoke about cutting immigration and they trebled it. As a result, they were kicked out. But to me, that's Brexit working. That is the accountability being very focused. Now you've got a new government that can't talk about the EU. It can't talk about free movement. It's entirely accountable. But Shabana Mahmood does seem to be quite serious about it. So now, probably the biggest single success of Keir Starmer's government is one he doesn't dare mention, getting net migration down.
And wasn't down to him either.
Well, of course.
James Cavalier's Home Secretary bringing in those measures.
Well, there are two big embarrassments for Keir Starmer here. One, this shows Brexit working. Now, he doesn't want to talk about Brexit working. He wants to talk about it being a disaster to be mitigated. He wants to get closer ties with the EU. He's even talking crazily, in my view, about kind of youth mobility. In other words, introducing another aspect of free movement back into the UK. In fact, he should be working out that Brexit will be his saviour in two ways. One, it will allow him to properly and visibly control net migration. And the other big one is the AI regulation. We've now got sovereignty over this, so we can have a kind of AI business plan that Europe would not be able to match.
Which the second one might give you the growth he needs and the election. The first one, though, I mean, I hadn't thought about that. This 18 to 30-year-old freedom movement, that is on the cards for this year. So just as he grabs this holy grail, he can declare, I have got control of net migration, and 5 Tory governments couldn't do that and promise you that they would do it, and they couldn't do it. Just as he gets that, he lets it go again. With youth movement.
I know, this is the most staggering own goal. And you're looking at this thinking, my God, can he really blow it? With Keir Starmer, the answer is always yes to that question. I can't recount why Shabana Mahmood, who seems to be a bit more on it than the Prime Minister, isn't making more of a fuss about this. I mean, sure, I get it that Keir Starmer isn't particularly, doesn't really like Brexit, but think of how many Labour MPs there are who were destined to lose their seats to Reform right now.
Yeah.
If I was one of those MPs, and I'd be seeing my own voters really concerned about migration, I would want to say to them, look, this Labour government has controlled net migration. It's hit net zero. It's achieved what the Tories were never able to achieve. This is a boast which seems to just stick in their craw. They don't seem able to articulate it.
And yet they talk about the thing they fail on. They talk about the illegal migrant numbers, which is an embarrassment, up 20% in the last year.
Well, the small boats are, by the way, I should be completely clear of what this doesn't do, right? It doesn't affect the small boat arrivals. They are off the books, they are illegal, and for as long as the legal mess still surrounds them, they're going to keep coming. Yeah. But the other thing is we hear about this on a daily basis. We only hear about net migration a few times a year. So it was this drumbeat of failure with the small boats, with a major success of net migration is something which comes out in a statistical annex, and people can't quite work out really what's going on.
You mentioned AI, and of course we know the government's banking a lot of that money and that coming to fruition on economic growth before the end of the decade, before the election. But of course, if you remove net migration at these numbers, where do you find that growth? There's 6.5 million, as you say, on out-of-work benefits. The pressure increasingly is on the government to get those into work.
You bet. Now, there's going to be a whole new argument here that we haven't heard before. We're so used to panicking about migration being so big and out of control. We're not used to what's going to happen. We're now going to go straight into another panic. My God, there's not enough people. Now, panic will be coming from the Treasury. Number one, thinking, look, we literally budgeted for 250,000 net migration. If it's going to be zero, if that's going to leave a hole, what are we going to do about it? Now, this is where Keir Starmer needs to say to the Treasury, no. Every time, year after year, you've tried to get out of a hole by net migration. This time, we've got 6.5 million people in Britain on out-of-work benefits. We've got unemployment.
Paid to be out of work.
We've got unemployment at an 11-year high. No way are we going to turn back on the immigration tap so you can grow the economy? Because it's fake growth. It's not per capita growth. So you need Keir Starmer to do what Boris could have done after Brexit but failed to do, which is to put the economy through some necessary pain. To say to the employers, yes, I know it's a lot easier to hire people from Poland or from overseas. A lot easier then is to get Brits off benefits. But right now, we're forcing you to do it. And to the care homes, we're going to force you to pay proper wages. Don't get away paying unskilled labour for a skilled job. So you need to go through that crunch to reconnect vacancies in the British economy with British unemployment. That's what Brexit was supposed to be all about.
I know. Would he ever say that? Seems to me, though, Fraser Nelson, you're sketching out a landing zone for Keir Starmer to win the election. Because if you think 2 years ago, Reform were on 12 points in the polls, no Farage leadership, it was Richard Tice. And then that surge happened 18 months ago, or started happening when he came back into politics. It can easily be turned around, can't it? If you think if they can control net migration, the growth starts to come through AI, maybe through tough measures. It is a narrow landing zone, which is
put it this way. I see this as Brexit working. That's the main effect here.
Yes.
I think what people voted for was to take back control. The controls were used badly by the Conservatives. They're being used better now. So this, to me, is a really major point. We are not victims of circumstance. We cannot just sit here and wait to happen. We can actually change it. Now, to turn a success into an electoral failure, then you need articulation, you need salesmanship. I'm not sure Keir Starmer's got that. Look at John Major, all of his successes economic successes before 97, nobody believed it from him. So I think if you look at Keir Starmer's approval rating, it's so low, nobody's ever come back from such a rating. So I don't necessarily think this translates into success, because I also suspect he will not be able to articulate with success. He'll keep banging on about the cost of living, which he's got no real power over and no real plans to improve, rather than focus on what polls show is the number one and number two most concerning thing in the economy, which is immigration. So I suspect he will enact the political nous to convert this policy success into a political success.
It seems so. I mean, I was with him on Monday, as I say, at this event. And he gave this big speech about cost of living, talking about the money off fuel bills in April, more coppers on the streets in March, falling interest rates and so forth. And at the end, having talked to the Labour members, he said to them, well, now it's time for a cup of tea or a coffee and a biscuit. I remember thinking, if you can't decide if you want tea or coffee, what that sort of symbolises the problem with him. I think he's always on the edge, on the fence of deciding what to do. And that
I know. I think it's sort of obvious now that he's fatally miscast as the role of Prime Minister. I mean, politics is about making and winning arguments. It's about telling stories. Now,
what's his story?
I know, he hasn't got one, even about a story of success happening under his nose. Now, I hope his Home Secretary is banging down the door saying, you've got to start talking about net migration. We've achieved something people have wanted for years. It's now happening. By the way, not only because the Tories tightened it, Shabana Mahmood has herself, and Yvette Cooper also tightened up some of the visa restrictions. So that is having a role as well. But if something's going right, maybe don't treat it as a dirty secret.
Is it embarrassing for them? Does Labour like migration? That's where the votes
well,
might be more.
This is the thing, that they're so used to seeing migration as being a kind of evil right-wing topic, and people talk about migration as being basically wicked, but they can't quite bring themselves to take on that same kind of language. But you'd think that when Shabana Mahmood or those around her, there might be some kind of either a blue Labour movement or a survival instinct amongst the reform-facing Labour MPs thinking, we have got to talk about this now.
Just finally about Keir Starmer at the moment, I'm struck by the kind of the collapse of the rules-based order he's so used to. Look at Venezuela, look at the threats towards Greenland, look at the seizing of these vessels in the Atlantic this week, and in the same week we're paying tens of billions of our money to give away sovereign territory in the Pacific, in the Indian Ocean. Forgive me, the Chagos Islands. It seems extraordinary, doesn't it? That Is he the wrong, again, the miscast Prime Minister for a different age when rules are less important than the national interest? Maybe?
Look, I suspect inside his head the world is melting down here. This is a lawyer who is seeing the rules-based order collapse. But I will give him this credit. When we look at the capture of his Russian vessel, this was something that Britain actually helped in. We provided intelligence cover. We worked hand in glove with our allies, the Americans, to do
bases were used.
Exactly. So I think that would obviously have come with Prime Ministerial approval and to release that information as well. So he isn't, I can imagine he probably, his instinct was to contemn Trump for the Venezuela raid, but he didn't in the end. Neither did yours. So they're basically muting themselves. So no matter what he's thinking, he is actually ruling with this. So far, like, I'm critical of him many, many things, but he's actually played Trump quite well, and he's being restrained right now, and he was right to help America capture the
Chagos Island.
Well, of course, that was a calamity. I mean, I'm not quite sure. Everybody knows that the Tories, even now, they say, yeah, we went along with these negotiations, but we're never going to actually do it. But to actually see, the thing is, Keir Starmer isn't particularly political, but he does worship the notion of rules-based order. He's a lawyer first and a politician second. That is fundamentally his problem.
Got to reverse that, hasn't he? Fraser Nelson of The Times, great to see you, of course, and thanks for coming on Chopper's Political Podcast. Thank you.
Great pleasure.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Now, something a bit more light-hearted to kick off the new year. Have you seen on your social media feeds this video?
Truths on the table, but no statement. No statement, no vote, no word to the House. Troops on the line and you're ducking it out. Graves' decision a PM can make. You don't sneak it through. You stand and explain.
That was Kemi Badenoch as a rapper. Her response in Prime Minister's Questions this week set to music and a video using AI, presenting Sir Keir Starmer as a Dalek, for example. And perhaps then this one.
All we've had from her is wallowing, wailing, self-pity speeches, victimhood, flailing, crying about misogyny, whining about mansplaining. But listen up, Kemi's here, and the roof's about to cave in. So, man and deputy speaker, let me break it down clean. Woman to woman rate, I'll tell you what I mean. People ain't complaining because you female on the scene. They complaining because you run the country like a broken machine. Yeah.
That was Kemi Badenoch reacting to the budget last November. And maybe this one, the most recent one published, we've seen this week.
Let me just stop you there. I know what you're thinking. This is it. The line has got me. Well, you'd be wrong. Just take a look and see what happens next.
That's Reform UK leader Nigel Farage being apparently dragged off by a lion and then riding the lion into the sunset. They're all produced by a website called the Crewkerne Gazette. It's run by two anonymous individuals who call themselves the Crewkerne Men. Crewkerne is a town in South Somerset. And one of those Crewkerne Men joining me now on Chopper's Political Podcast. Crewkerne Man, welcome to Chopper's Political Podcast. It's great to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, Chopper.
Now, I've got to say, I don't know your name, do I? You're called Crewkerne Man, and that's fine. You choose to be anonymous, but we're seeing your face on the YouTube footage and also elsewhere if you're watching this on any kind of TV screen. But great to have you on. Why do you want to be anonymous, first of all?
I think it really, when we look at many of the people who have been arrested and prosecuted by this government, there's a lot of uncertainty around what you can and can't say, what is satire, what is allowed, what isn't. So for me personally, it's about protection. I mean, there's two of us on this team. We both use the moniker Crewkerne Man. So it's about protecting myself, but also it's about the content. The content is mostly AI, satire, music, and it doesn't really require my identity to be associated with it.
So you're a collective, you're Crewkerne Men. I get that. and I mean, the ideas are funny. You've got these characters now. You've got Kemi Badenoch as a rapper. You've got Keir Starmer as a Dalek. I think you've got David Lammy as the Lammy Dodger, is that right? Is there
the Lammy Dodger, yeah. Robert Jenrick, to be fair, is responsible for the title of the Lammy Dodger. He brought that up in Parliament, and we thought it was so great, and put him in the Jammy Dodger packet with a Jammy Dodger biscuit, and it just worked very well.
And you respond very quickly. I mean, the ideas you have are funny, and also Nigel Farage is this kind of he's this what is he, a big kind of a guy in the hood, is that right? In a big white
Nigel Garage or Garage.
Garage, yeah, Garage. He's got a massive
white fur coat and the gold
medallion fur coat. Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, it's funny, and also what I mean, as a kind of content creator in slightly older media, I'm intrigued and fascinated by how quickly you get your videos out. The wrap is made quickly, and then very quickly after on Wednesday this week, you produced a video about why isn't Keir Starmer doing a statement about Ukraine, about possible boots on the ground and that kind of thing. I mean, it's fascinating how quickly you get your ideas out, and you write all the content yourself.
Yeah, it's all written by us, and every Wednesday, in fact, we cover Prime Minister's questions. And usually the turnaround's probably about 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours, and we'll have a video out, and we keep it totally accurate. But we change what, for instance, Kemi Badenoch has been saying into a rap. But her words are kind of changed to rhyme, to make sense. So she's spitting some bars and making sense. And we do a lot of sort of dance AI satire as well. So there was a big video we did actually on New Year's Eve, a Happy New Year video, and it was Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage dancing to Moving On Up by M People, which was very well received.
And you started out, didn't you, with a rap video about Angela Rayner when she was the Deputy Prime Minister. How many homes is she going to buy? And that really made your name. I think the Crewkerne Gazette on the Twitter.
And it's still very true. How many homes is she going to buy? And actually, watching that video, it was a feeling in the country at the time. People were very angry that she hadn't resigned, and there was no real sort of opposition at that point to some of the things that she had done, other than the sort of mainstream news. So we brought together all of the elements of the Crewkerne Gazette, which is AI, music, satire, and we created this video, How Many Homes Can Rainer Buy? And it got like 11 million views within 7 hours. Wow. I was going into pubs in Crewkerne, and people were playing this and dancing to it, and it was really amazing. And I genuinely believe it was probably one of the contributing factors that led to her resignation, because at that point she was really clinging on. She was hoping to cling on to her role in the cabinet. But I think the ridicule became so much that maybe even fellow members of the Labour cabinet were playing that video during some of their meetings.
We don't know, but it was.
We don't know.
It was funny, and then the one, of course, Kemi Badenoch's response to the budget that was played to her on national TV on a different channel the morning after, and she had seen it. And then this week we see Nigel Farage on the African plains. Being first of all apparently attacked by a lion, and then riding off into sunset on the lion, like the Lion King, I suppose. I mean, where do the ideas come from? They're just thoughts, are they?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are original ideas and thoughts. We really borrow and steal from pop culture. We look at a lot of the popular memes and viral content that comes from America as well. Yeah. And we kind of combine all of that. I mean, the Lion King idea, it literally came from the Lion King. There's that popular meme with Elon Musk where he's lifting up the Lion King from the film. Oh, yeah. And we kind of took that from that, and we thought, well, let's make it a realistic video with Nigel Farage. And, of course, you're watching this video, and in the beginning, it's like, is he going to be attacked and eaten by a lion? So it's kind of some of the darker fantasies of perhaps the left-wing intelligentsia may enjoy that video, but then he stops and speaks to us, breaking the third wall. And I think some of the technology we used there was very good, the AI. Yeah. And at that point, it's like, it's not going to go this way. And then he goes into the savannah. And
when he says, can I just stop you there? That's how he sounds. Yeah. I mean, how do you get his voice? Is his voice... You've scraped all of his interviews elsewhere, and then he can say anything for you now. The AI version of Farage, for example.
So for every politician that we feature, we train an AI model. We train how they sound, their personalities, their behavior and traits. So living on our kind of system is a majority of politicians in this country as a kind of AI personality, which is a bit crazy, but very useful for accurately portraying them in many of our content.
And you're like this guiding mind. You can make your AI politicians do what you like. I mean, within reason, I suppose, but they're your characters to play with. A bit like a cartoon, I suppose, or Spitting Image,
Yeah,
for example.
within reason. I think William Sitwell did a great article in the Telegraph saying that we were the new Spitting Image, and I think Spitting Image had become so out of touch. They're so focused with America and even like Boris Johnson, and he's not even involved at all in the running of the country. So it's about holding the ruling party to account, which Spitting Image used to do so very well. And we've kind of taken that mantle on now. What we're very careful of course, is the accuracy of our content. As I said earlier, with the Kemi Badenoch speeches in Parliament, we take those speeches and we don't add anything to them. We keep them accurate. And I think that's important because a lot of people engage with our content. Probably like we've had 100 million views so far, which is astronomical, really.
And is that since when? When did you launch the Crewkerne Gazette? Last summer, I think.
Yeah, June last summer. But we didn't begin doing the political videos until around about August.
Yeah, and it's called the Crewkerne Gazette because that's maybe where you're from, Crewkerne in Somerset.
Crewkerne's where I'm from, and Crewkerne is it's a great town. It's a great example of a British town where humour is preserved. You can walk down the streets in the morning, say good morning to absolutely everybody, and everybody is cracking the jokes. You can go to the pubs, and the pubs are thriving, the shops are thriving. I'm very, very fortunate to live here. So it was about how I can take this example of Crewkerne and present it to the country and indeed the world. And it works very well because everybody has a town similar to Crewkerne or similar to where they perhaps live, and those who don't, who aren't as fortunate, get a taste of the real England. Because
the real England in Britain is naturally quite a funny place. People make jokes, they smile all the time. If you stand on someone's toes, they'll say sorry, not you. I mean, that's the nature of our country as being Brits, isn't it? And you're kind of trying to channel that, really.
I think one of the great British traits, people are always saying, what does it mean to be British? But comedy, humour is certainly up there. It probably got us through 2 world wars. It certainly kept us going during the dark days of the Labour government in the 1970s, and perhaps even now with this Labour government. So it's something that we have to cling on to. And I think the other point of that is also free speech. Reason for my anonymity is to protect my free speech in the case that, I'm arrested for some absurd reason. And I think it is a dire situation in this country right now in regards to free speech. So that's a big element of the Crewkerne Gazette.
Well, that's being wound back slowly, it seems, with the hate crimes prosecutions will decline under the police guidance. We think we'll wait and see how that plays out, or and going after people for posting on the social media. I can remember when Guido Fawkes started this website in Westminster, and the guy who ran that, Paul Staines, was anonymous for the first 3 or 4 years, in the same way you're anonymous now. And I think that's because you're trying to shake it up from inside. Are you getting any feedback or ideas from politicians? I mean, to me, it looks like you're kind of reform or conservative adjacent, or are you not? You're simply holding power to account.
I think, obviously I have my own political views, and I think you're right. My personal political views are kind of reform and conservative. But the platform itself, we try to cover all political parties. And sometimes people can say, oh, you're a bit more reform than you are conservatives, or vice versa. But the reality is that Kemi Badenoch is the leader of the opposition and is in Prime Minister's questions every single week. So it's important we cover her. But we also give Nigel Farage a lot of coverage as well, because, of course, he's leading in the polls. But our main focus is Keir Starmer and the Labour government. So they get the most coverage, but we're certainly not Labour fanboys. It's about being fair. I think that in terms of politicians who have supported the platform or been in touch, often that's a very public thing. A lot of politicians share our content. We don't work directly with anybody, and nobody's come around saying there's, X amount of money, start working for us. And we wouldn't do that either. We turn that down. We are a complete open house in regards to what we're doing and where we're going with it.
And you're making money from it? Are you both full-time now? The Crewkerne men are making money from this?
Oh, yeah, we do the Crewkerne Gazette full-time. It's a full-time hobby, really, more than anything, because we enjoy it so much. It's one of those fantastic things where, you can take your skills and the things that you've picked up in life and apply it to something you enjoy doing. I've been working in the political space now for probably 12 years or so.
Oh, right.
And initially working very much in sort of old world media with old school political videos and speech writing, and I've been everywhere. But I was fortunate to spend enough time in America during the beginning of the AI golden era that really began a few years ago, and I picked up a lot of skills there, and I've kind of brought that to this country.
I think your videos will become more and more pertinent and influential going into the election period. We're still not even at midterm level yet in this Parliament. If it goes the full term, I mean, you might feel more pressure on yourself, I suppose, although you are treating it like a journalism project, aren't you, with accuracy and the like.
It's interesting you say that because we never set out to promote politicians or political parties, but since we've started doing the Kemi Badenoch rap videos, the youth vote for the Conservatives or the polling opinions has really gone through the roof. I think they're second to the Greens at the moment. So I'm pretty sure that certainly younger people see our videos and engage with them, and it makes them think more about politics.
Yeah,
and this is especially important with Keir Starmer and the Labour government looking to lower the age of voting.
Yeah, absolutely. And if that happens, there's some polling to suggest that those 16 to 18-year-olds don't want the vote necessarily, by the way. But it's interesting, there's a kind of counterpoint there. Do young people want to have the vote or not? Because there's some polling to say they are happy not having it. But if they engage more with politics, that's really, really important. So what's next? You'll keep pumping out your videos, just dropping them on social media, seeing what the reaction is.
Yeah, we'll continue to do that. We released a Christmas song, in fact, this past Christmas that was number 2 in the iTunes download charts for the entirety of the chart week. So we're going to probably look to do more of that kind of thing, see how we can use our platform to raise money for good causes as well.
Okay.
So we raised some money for a company that looks to help the victims of grooming gangs. Really, it's looking into cases like that, how we can use our platform to help people in this country who need it the most. And I think we didn't get number 1 this year, obviously, but there's always next year.
Well, listen, Crewkerne man, thank you for joining us today on Chopper's Political Podcast, and let's keep us smiling through this year. Great to see you, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Crewkerne man, thank you for joining us on Chopper's Political Podcast. Absolutely fascinating food for thought about the future, maybe, of satire to some extent in this country. And thank you earlier to Fraser Nelson, the columnist at the Times, with his thoughts on whether we might be able to control net migration for the first time. The holy grail for so many politicians, the one they failed to grasp over two or three decades, could be about to happen in this country. Let's see how that plays out this year. Okay, that's all for me this week. And don't forget, you can vote for Chopper's Political Podcast in the Political Podcast Awards. That voting remains open until Friday the 9th of January. How you vote for me to be the best podcast presenter in politics, the link for that is in the description for this podcast. I tweet, of course, at Christopher Hope on X. Email me your thoughts on this podcast, chopper@gbnews.uk. If you enjoyed this podcast, please do tell your friends. If you really enjoyed it, why not leave us a review, a 5-star rating, wherever you find the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere, YouTube even, leave a review there. All helps people to find this podcast is in increasing numbers, and they are. Thanks to the great team of GB News colleagues behind the podcast, the worker bees Rebecca Nunes and George Macmillan working directly on it, and Mick Booker and Jeff Marsh, the guiding lights behind this podcast and making it for you each week. And most importantly of all, thank you for listening. If you want more Chopper in your life, and Rebecca does, of course, please catch her during the week on GB News with our latest political stories. She's shaking her head at that point, for those who can't see. And do, of course, stay up to date with our best reporting on gbnews.com. But from me, until the next time, cheerio!